EPA did some special sampling, and it showed there were high levels of dioxane in the Cape Fear River. And based on that, we at that point undertook an effort to figure out where they were coming from and try to get those levels reduced. And that included a lot of sampling, a lot of coordination with the state. And so it was identified that Greensboro was one of the major dischargers. Asheboro and Reevesville are the other two major dischargers of dioxane. And with some of the really high levels that Greensboro was discharging, the state finally took action and put them on a notice of violation that they were exceeding the standards for the Cape Fear River. It was pretty well known that Greensboro was a significant source of 1,4-dioxane, which is a suspected carcinogen. And so we have been working for quite some time to try to get that corrected. And as part of that process, it included the state issuing a special order by consent that required them to undertake actions to reduce the level of those discharges. Initially, we thought the SOC was insufficient, and so we challenged it, and we're planning to go to administrative hearing, but with a lot of mediation and negotiation, we were able to resolve that and ended up with what we thought was a much better SOC to try to get those dioxane levels reduced so we don't have to drink them down here. 1,4-dioxane is basically, it's like a solvent, and it's used in a lot of products, industrial type products. And with the work that's been done on it over the years, it is a suspected carcinogen. And as there are many emerging contaminants, 1,4-dioxane is one of them. And so there's always continuing work going on trying to work at establishing what a drinking water standard would be, because it is a contaminant that hasn't been fully studied by EPA to develop those levels. However, we were able to get action taken because of the high levels in the stream did exceed North Carolina's regulations for what was allowable in the stream. The settlement, what we ended up with was the SOC has stricter interim limits in it that they have to meet. If they don't meet those stricter limits, there are higher penalties that can be assessed. So those are two very important things. Another one is that it enhanced the sampling plan that they have to do with their own industries to try to make sure they know where this is coming from. Another advantage of this settlement was we did get a commitment from DEQ, the State Environmental Agency, that they would undertake a basin-wide study to figure out where all the other sources of dioxane were coming from to further reduce the amount that's discharged in the surface waters. And one of the other important things was they did commit to issuing a formal discharge permit. The SOC is like just an understanding during their efforts to come into compliance, but they did commit to issuing a discharge permit that would solidify what they had to do and when their final date was for achieving compliance with the standards. It only makes sense for the dischargers to clean up their discharge so that it doesn't get into streams and rivers, and then somebody downstream has to spend a lot of money getting out what they put in. Anytime somebody talks about is water safe to drink, we always fall back on what the standards are, and there's quite a few standards out there, and PwC meets or exceeds those standards on a regular basis and have been doing so since we entered the EPA Partnership for Safe Water. And there's some pretty strict requirements in order to qualify and get that designation, and we have been getting it, I think, every year for at least the last 15 years and probably longer. And to me, that is a third-party indication that our water is safe to drink. We have a location on our website, and every year we have to pull together a consumer confidence report. Some people call it a water quality report, but it's a report that we put out that details all of the information that we've been talking about right now as far as any information we have on emerging contaminants, as well as our levels of compliance with other standards that we are required to meet. Well, I definitely think that it was a win on the part of Fayetteville PwC to challenge the SOC that was issued and make it more stringent, make the penalty amounts higher, get commitments from the state to do basin-wide monitoring to find where we can get further reductions, and also the fact that the limits were reduced from where they started. So it was the SOC that we ended up with had more stringent requirements in it than the original one.